So go for recording. So hello, it is the session 11, yeah? Session 11. So we are gonna officially start after anybody saying hello. So again, thank you everybody for joining. There are a couple of things we are going to review. One of the most important things, Kim is going to explain us about the conductor. Anything that he knows about the conductor. We are gonna share the knowledge about the conductor. We are gonna learn from a GM what is the conductor. Rezan is here. Welcome, Rezan. So you missed the welcome, and maybe we will come back to you. So and after that, if we would have enough time, we would. I really would like to open the topic, the last section of the topic of anchor. Last time we discussed anchor first or data first, and still I'm receiving message that many people love that. So the last part that Jimmy mentioned that about should we create the should we update the entry or create a new commit, a new one, and ignore about that. It is a fantastic topic. Let's see how much we are gonna have time, and let's see that we can cover both. So before starting, I would like to hear an update from Greg and Aryan. There is a mission for these two guys. Just for those of you, maybe you don't know, Philip Biddle created a RAT tools. It means that really fantastic tool, and a non-developer can easily create application using a tool. It means there is no need to have a deep knowledge about the DHT, DNA, zone, something like that. You can create the application mostly for the non-developer. The visionary, maybe you know that in the future we are working on a community-based, any community-based currency application, anything. It means any community can create its own application, also somehow connected to underscore protocol from GM. Greg and Arya are supposed to go earn a knowledge, receive a knowledge from Asia Pacific time. You know, we have a two Hackalong. This meeting, we have two, one in European time and one in Asia time. These two guys supposed to go there and learn as much as possible, come here and share with us. That's it. I would like to ask them that please give a 1-2 minutes update, and specifically this question. Do you have any project in your mind to implement and learn? If there is, please introduce.
Yes, and to kind of jump on that, I'm also reporting on this meeting to them because I told them that I was reporting on them. And they're like, oh, well, we want to know, what are they doing? So I kind of had to quickly come up with something about the data first, anchor first. And, you know, so yeah, so Philip Beadle's a music guy making about 30 apps. So one of the first few apps he's making are apps that create apps. And Chimera is a tool that clones templates, and CRISPR clones other apps. He has a bunch of kind of fields that you can then fill in and create your own app. So it's a really interesting thing. He did have an update on how he can change something in a profile, and then in cross DNAs, that update stays with it. There's another guy named Posp, who's a Kiwi, that's creating HoloREA. A big discovery I made this year, after hearing him talk a few times, was I think I have years of experience with a system that he's creating. We called it Palantir, which is out of Silicon Valley, actually right there, wherever Stanford is. They have this office where, yeah, we started doing network analysis and describing relationships using Palantir, and it sounds like HoloREA is basically tracking and describing relationships between soil, see, in an agricultural context. So they did a good discussion on how they approach modularity.
Wait, Greg. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm not asking to summarize the Asia Pacific right now. It is the good topic. Let's think about that. Arya, maybe you would like to go. What is your plan? What do you have any update about the RAT tools? Or if you have any plan about any project in your mind, please update. Otherwise, we can continue.
Sure. So, all right. So I won't go into what Greg just mentioned. So specifically, the tool is easy to use. It's very easy interface, but it's not available right now. I've reached out to Philip to just give us the access if possible. How do I install it? Because a non-dev, how do I do it, right? And in the process, I wanted to create a training module for others also to get onboarded to using that tool. So that was the agenda, and that's where the state is right now. I have reached out to him. No like you cannot get your hands dirty right now. So that's the state. And when it comes to the project, specific project right now, in discussion with Greg, we are trying to create a holo business pipeline, getting people with ideas to come into the fold of Holochain community. First, talk about their idea, capture that as recordings, and after that, maybe bring them over here on the hackalong to create the architecture for their idea, and then use that tool to build it. So that's the pipeline. How do we want to go ahead and start doing it using that tool and when it's available?
Okay, I got your point. I think maybe we need to go for another internal discussion how to deal with it. So I got the thought. So all along it was about the rat tools. I hope in the coming session, in the near future, we will have an open window here about the rat tools. It means how it's working, any idea that can be implemented. So we are cultivating for the near future. So it is on the track, you know about that. So that's it from me. If anybody else, any topic else, otherwise we can go to GM and start about the conductor.
Okay, so it seems that we can start about the conductor. I don't have a ton of like really any material prepared, but I'm going to share a draw.io and start doing some diagrams so that people can get a better understanding of what the conductor is. But first, I'd like to get a sense of what the understanding is before starting. So this is, I don't know what a conductor is. This is like a driver thing or a rogue thing, or this is, I know all about the conductor. Where is everyone at? Right, okay. Some medium, some low, some medium, some heights as well, but not so much. Okay, so we are going to start with more basic stuff as well. So, okay, let me see how can, no, okay, so I'm going to start drawing a little bit like the overview from a high level of what the conductor is in relation to Holochain, Holochain nodes, Holochain apps, and in the end, what can we do with the conductor, okay? So to start, the conductor is really the same, like the word conductor is really the same as the phrase Holochain node, a node in the Holochain network. The Holochain executable is the conductor. So basically the conductor is the container that Holochain uses, or is Holochain in a sense. And inside that container, there are a bunch of apps. So I'm going to very simply make a diagram of that, of how would that look like. So we have here the conductor, which we can think about as a container that manages basically everything in a Holochain node. It manages network interfaces, it manages threads, it manages memory, it manages keys. So it basically manages everything. And then on that container with these neat functionalities already, we can layer Holochain applications. So each one of these is a Holochain application. So we can think of this as, for example, Clutter. This is the mutual credit. This is, I don't know, the lobby of the mutual credit. If you have any question at any point in time, I think interaction is much richer than me explaining, so go ahead.
Conductor, can we say conductor is any running conductor means one agent?
Yeah, exactly. No, we can't say that. Sorry, Hedayet, we can't say that. Why? Because the conductor will normally assign a different agent to each one of the apps.
It means, for example, the one place I imagine more than one agent, it's going to be Holoport. It means in Holoport, we would have a one conductor that's managing one conductor or multi-conductor. If the question is not proper, just postpone it. Don't hesitate.
I think it's not appropriate because that's another whole world. So
go ahead.
Holo is about virtualizing conductors, and we are explaining the simple conductor.
Go ahead.
So, but I can answer your question in a way to say, for example, in this clutter, maybe the conductor is the one managing the keys. So the way that it manages the keys is saying, okay, this is your master key, master private key, and then from that it can derive different private keys and assign different private keys to each one of the applications. So it's not necessarily that all the applications have different agent IDs, but most of them will.
Okay, so the master key, so there's one master key on one conductor, correct?
Yeah, that's basically right.
A quick, if you would like to continue, please do not answer me and continue. It means there is some scenario that one agent can run multiple conductors.
Yeah, right. So it depends on what you mean by one agent. One user, surely.
I mean one device. I mean, for example, one mobile or something.
No.
Or if there is a scenario, please explain if one agent or one device should or might run more than one conductor. Is there any scenario?
I don't think so. If you're running multiple conductors on one device, you're probably doing it wrong, because you will get much more running one conductor in all your Holochain applications in one conductor, because then you can breach.
Thank you. I got my answer.
That's another key thing we can put here, which are breaches. Okay. Any other question? Yeah,
it's Martin. So one scenario might be in let's say you have a small number of people who trust each other in a and that's sort of human trust, so it's not digital, and my name could be Jim, let's say, who's running servers on behalf and services on behalf of people that trust him, and so wouldn't that be an example of running multiple conductors, though? You know, people actually have direct, person-to-person relationships. It's not worth, let's call him Jim for the sake of arguments. It's not worth Jim's sort of social while in making a mess of that. So he looks after their private keys on conductors. Would that be an example of doing that? Or is there some sort of technical limitation or imposition? And the second question is just a terminology one. I see deep key is what you've referred to there, the conductor management of keys and provisioning of private keys, what is referred to as deep key on the Holochain literature.
Right. Yeah, both very interesting questions. As per the first one, it really depends on where the conductors are running. If the conductors are running on one machine, for example, you say, I'm going to run your conductor so that you don't need to run it, then you're running into a security issue. You mentioned that there was trust, but basically the Jim has not got control of their private key. So I think in that scenario, you're better off using Holo, because Holo has all the infrastructure for you not to need to manage your conductor or anyone else to need to manage your conductor, but still you are managing your private keys.
Right, right. Actually, that was the outcome I hoped to understand, actually. So great.
Okay. And then as per the other one, that's a very interesting one. So the conductor expects some service, some application to be registered as the key management application. So in this case, here we have DPKI, so distributed private key infrastructure, as a service, as a maybe an API that other people can call, or that you yourself, the conductor, is going to call when installing applications or whatever. And then one of the most core applications here is going to be DeepKey.
Ah, yeah, right. Okay, I think you've actually mentioned that before, and I've simply forgotten, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, and then this DeepKey application is registered as implementing the DPKI service for this conductor. This makes it so that if I want to change my key management, I can install another application, and all the other applications are going to be compatible with this because it's a clearly defined API. It's like a standard, something like that.
Okay, no, that's fantastic, actually. It really is a toolkit, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so.
Oh, the only other thing, sorry, just to, do you know if that's implemented yet?
Martin, sorry. Let's Guillaume continue that we have a skeleton. We have a skeleton of education, and we would come back. Go ahead.
Fine. Thank you, Hadayat.
Okay. So we have like this we could call what's happening. Oops, sorry. Like this, we could call this a Holochain node. To back, this is a Holochain node, right? And every time you are running a Holochain node, it has all these parts. And if you think about it, the conductor is basically managing everything, and all these applications are just WebAssembly code that the conductor invokes once in a while to execute their functions. So imagine the Clutter application has a function which is create tweet. Okay. And now here I have the UI, right? So from the UI, I call, okay, I want to call create tweet from my Clutter application. But you cannot call directly the Clutter application because really this Clutter application is only WebAssembly code that's compiled down from Rust. It doesn't know anything about interfaces. It doesn't know anything about the internal structure of Holochain core or anything like that. So what the UI actually does is call the conductor, and maybe this is port, I don't know, port 3333 or whatever. The conductor is always bound to a port or multiple ports. And then the conductor itself is the one that invokes. This is really weird, I guess, but like this, close enough. So the conductor then, from the request, figures out which application it should invoke, and then executes the WebAssembly function of the application, of the appropriate application. And then this function maybe has some commit entry or whatever. And actually the commit entry, so the whole Holochain core is not compiled down to WebAssembly, but is only exposed. So when the create tweet is executed here, and maybe there is a commit entry, Clutter application is actually, this is very weird, but anyway, it's actually calling the conductor. So it's saying, hey, conductor, commit this entry for me in this application. So if you think about it, 95% of what's happening in Holochain is happening at the level of conductor. The conductor is the one that executes all the functions, is responsible for executing the validation rules, is responsible for executing the receive, init, validate agent callbacks. It's responsible for sending and receiving private messages. It's responsible for holding the DHT of each application. It's responsible for everything, really. I'm going to pause for a moment and let the discussion happen here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question, please. So let's say that we have the compiled WebAssembly module of a hub, which the conductor is accessing, and I was asking myself a question: is it possible to actually reach and connect to the WASM module from other WASM hosts? So, for example, let's say I am adding some functions within the WASM which don't have much to do with Holochain, but perhaps they would be, let's say, yeah, doing some computation. And I would want to use this module also in my browser. So, for example, is it possible somehow to expose the WASM module or to plug it into a different host than the conductor?
If you're, for example, let's see if this fits your case. You could compile the code to WebAssembly and run it directly on the browser, right? So yeah, absolutely, you can.
I can add this question, Jakub. Who is gonna call that one? You mean UI should call that WebAssembly or conductor or
no. My browser. So for example, I want to make a function within the WebAssembly module, which is which is returning some counted pixels. So, and I want to use it in my browser. So I just want to use the compiled WebAssembly module, which otherwise is served by conductor, but I just want to directly interact with the WASM module, perhaps from the browser. So is there a way how I can connect to the WASM module without needing the conductor or without needing the, yeah?
I think you need to basically compile your web application with a WASM module in it already. Because otherwise you should ask the conductor download this WASM module for me at runtime, and I don't think that's a good idea. And I don't think that Holochain core is going to implement something like that.
So I would just need to find another tunnel to just grab the WASM blob in a way, if I wanted to do this weird thing, right?
You can compile it directly in your web application. That's no problem.
I think it means right. UI. Yeah. It means we can bundle it inside the application, and UI can call it directly without going to. It means this is another logic like a conductor named WebAssembly. You can call it directly from UI.
Oh, okay. So I can. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Got the point?
Yeah.
Guillaume, also,
Thanks.
is it possible to give me permission somehow? I can sure. Ask a question with
remote control.
Okay, can I?
Yeah.
Can I ask something very basic? So, a conductor, is it something that the Holocore is developing as part of their package, or is it something that HAP developers have to develop?
The conductor code is basically what the Holochain core team does. That's it. It doesn't. They develop some hubs as well, but the conductor is all they do, basically.
Okay. So what is the logic for exposing the DPKI for other people to change the key management? What is the logic behind that?
I would like to postpone this question, okay? Because let's postpone it, because the topic of the conductor is gonna be it is not. We will talk about it later. So any other question, guys?
It's Martin again, and I'm wondering about and it can be one for later, but how does the HDK, if you wanted to create a, like, let's say a .NET Core HDK, how would that picture change, or wouldn't it at all?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So the HDK is the glue that makes it possible for the conductor and the application to communicate. So we could say HDK function call, and here also HDK maybe callback call. No, sorry. HDK function, HDK callback. So it's like the API, the contract between the conductor and the Holochain code, Holochain application code, that allows both to communicate with one another. So in the HDK, things like commit entry, which is a function defined in the HDK, would be this line when the application code wants the conductor to do something for them. And the other way around, right? So you can define in your application code, when this function is called, do these instructions, right? So it's like the contract there. Basically, the HDK is dependent on the language on which the hub is written. So you cannot write a JavaScript application or TypeScript application right now, because there is no HDK for that yet, at least. In theory, if an HDK existed for those languages, everything that would compile to WebAssembly would be compatible with this architecture. And you could have here mutual credit written with Rust, and I don't know, this one written in another language. But that's very, very in the future. I know this is possible though.
So Gilliam, is the HDK basically like doing the conversion of the higher level, well, I wouldn't say higher level, but the source language like today is Rust to WASM, the serialization, deserialization, the memory allocation, sort of, that type of concern, right? When you make the call from between the conductor and the app, is that right?
Yeah. In part, yeah. So about the serialization, deserialization, and this kind of stuff, yeah. About the low-level memory management, that's the WASM engine that you're running. That's allocating memory for your variables in WebAssembly and so on. So just to give you an example, from the beginning, we have been using WASMI as our WASM engine, and now we will switch to WASMR, which is much faster. And this is why in things like the file storage or things like that, we expect a much more much faster application code execution, because we are switching of WebAssembly engines. That's a big part, a big chunk of the performance there.
Because the memory management change.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
And it's like you change one browser for another, right? So JavaScript runs in the browser. If you change one browser that's developed like 10, 20 years ago, and you run it in Chrome or Firefox right now, it's going to be massively different, the performance for the same code, because the underlying engine is totally different.
Got you. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, my question, if you think you need to postpone, do it. I just want to know I have a feedback. What is the order who is running the application on device? It means conductor is coming up after running application, before, or conductor should run then application.
Okay, when you say run application, you are talking about installing? Or
Yes, coming up the application, when it means there should be one container, it's coming
Mhm.
up, and then UI is coming up, and then conductor is coming up, or conductor at the beginning is run. Who is
Okay.
running conductor?
Okay, so at the beginning of time, the Big Bang is the conductor. Conductor is first thing that has to happen. At least, yeah, and then the UI depends on whether you are on Holoscape or on Holo, but we are going to skip UI. When UI is running, the conductor needs to already be running. If the conductor is not running, the applications cannot run anywhere. The applications need the conductor to run. Otherwise, they're like, I don't know, fish without water. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to go. They cannot be called. You cannot call a function of an application without the conductor. So we can actually think about what this would look like at the beginning of booting up a conductor. So let's copy this. So imagine we are in Holoscape, right? And we boot up Holoscape for the first time. We don't have any application installed. Actually, we will need to have DeepKey installed already, but don't tell anyone. No, do tell anyone you want, but for simplifications, we are going to pretend it's not. So the conductor is running, so your Holochain node is running. So when you do Holochain with the conductor file, configuration file, or when you do HCRun, whatever, you're running a conductor that may have no applications installed. And then one of the main functions of the conductor is managing what applications you have installed. So here, should I go? Yeah, I guess I should go. The conductor is conductor admin. The conductor has this administrator section, which you can call, which contain functions very needed, like install a DNA. So you give it a file and it can install a DNA. And you can add some instance. So this is install the application of this DNA. And you can, it's somewhat complicated, but you can store the instance. So if you install the DNA from file, add the instance, and start the instance, so boot up, you are actually just creating an application here. And if the conductor is killed, everything is killed. There is no, the application doesn't get to run by its own. This cannot happen. The application is always sandboxed inside the conductor. And then imagine that this is lib, for example. So we have the course catalog, and we also, when you install lib, you have only the course catalog, right? You don't really have anything else. And
Yes.
imagine you add a new course. So you're telling the conductor, hey, conductor, clone this DNA, and the conductor will clone the DNA. I'm not adding any new thing here because the instance is not running yet. There is only a new DNA file, JSON, in the conductor. And then I'm saying instance start of this DNA. And then it's saying, go, okay, let's boot up the Holochain application. And then we have here course 1. And then if you add another course doing the same, clone DNA and start, it's going to do the same thing. And it's okay if these two codes are the same. These two codes are really the same. The only thing that changes are some properties, like we explained, I think, last week or maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yes, sure. It means different DNA. It means different DNA.
Exactly. It's different DNA, it's different applications. So it will be different networks as well. So then, yeah, I'm going to pause if there is any more questions here, and then I'm going to duplicate this to see how multiple conductors interact with one another.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is,
Wait. Sorry. Guys, we have a really bad feedback. Would you please anybody mute? And hello?
okay. Let me try again then.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I think there is still a feedback.
Maybe Guillaume, would you also please mute yourself?
Okay.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Arya.
Yeah.
It is Guillaume, yeah.
Yeah. So the UI, we mentioned about the UI and we mentioned about the app. So, and this is like with an understanding that the people don't have their own, what do you say, Holochain instance running on their device. Let's say phone or something. It's a device. They don't have it. That is why the UI is calling the conductor, and then it's going to reach out somewhere to find the information that they want to interact with. So that means that you, for those people who have the HAP on their phone, cannot, like on their device, cannot exist without the Holochain on it. If they want to use the HAP without internet. So that relationship with internet connectivity and the conductor, I just want to understand, like, can people use their HAP without internet connectivity and interact with each other devices?
Yeah, absolutely they can, because this conductor is not actually running on another device. It's running on the same device. So it's perfectly fine if you have, oops. Oh, yeah, it created for me. Okay, it's perfectly fine if you have this scenario to back, and this is phone. So the UI can be running in the same computer as the Holochain node. In the non-Holo scenario, this is what you have. In the Holo scenario, you have the UI running on your phone and the Holochain node running on a Holoport.
Exactly. So that is when the second scenario that you mentioned, when you don't have the Holochain and the conductor on your phone, that is the time when you need internet connectivity for the UI to interact with Holoport or Holo just to interact.
If you have to interact through Holochain, yes, you do, but maybe the UIs of the two phones can interact with one another. So for example, if I can show you my, if I have a UI that has downloaded the signature that Holochain created, and I go offline, I can still show you the signature of my phone, right? Because I have downloaded it. And you can still check that the signature is from my, or whatever private key, you can still verify the signature, because that doesn't really need internet connection or Holochain core function call or anything like that, if the UI code is adapted to that. Okay, so any more questions on these issues? Okay, so I'm going to now zoom a little bit out. Oh, Hedayat, do you have a question?
Yeah, Ron.
Go ahead now.
Go.
So the phone/Holoport scenario.
Sorry, Josh. Again, when others talking, please mute, because this is a hard
Sorry.
feedback.
Yeah, sorry, but you're controlling my screen, I think, so it's a little difficult to mute. Wait, I'm having trouble.
I know. Cut my permission. Actually, you can cut my permission. Okay, from your screen.
Ooh, wait, I can't control my computer. Wait a minute. Ah.
Screen with two mouses.
What is happening?
A screen with two conductors.
Yeah. Ah.
Well put.
Go ahead, go
Josh.
ahead. Solve.
Okay, so my question was well, I kind of have two questions. I think one of them I already know the situation is the phone running Conductor on your phone right now isn't feasible and won't be for a while. Is that a correct assumption? Because I think that's the information I got last time. I'll keep that one because that's relatively easy to answer.
So what I would say is that you don't want to run the conductor on your phone. You are able to, yes, but then your phone is going to be handling a lot of load, a lot of networking messaging and so on. I don't think we want to go there right now. So what I would recommend is going holo on mobile.
Yeah, okay. So which brings me to the second question then, because going holo is running on a holo port, and here is the thing that I'm grey about is what happens if somebody gets access to the holo port in which your keys, your deep key or whatever, is being stored and orchestrated from or conducted by. So like, can the holo port essentially be can the data be read off the holo port? Is there some kind of security measure there that you know about? I'm just thinking about vandals if the holo port's in a public place.
Yeah, so what I know is that one, the holo port is not storing the private key of the users. That's a very important one. The private key is getting generated on the fly on the browser. So actually the private key is on the UI.
Okay. So the UI generates the private key and then I conduct stuff. So I give that to the conductor, or I control the conductor through that private key that's generated by the UI.
Yeah, it's like the conductor asks the UI, can you sign this for me? And the UI goes, yeah, here you go. So that's one cool thing. And there is a lot of cool trickery around that. And also a centralized point, unfortunately, that Holo needs to use to make this possible. Another day we can talk about that. Because I think we could get into a rabbit hole here. What I know is that in the holo port, all the data is, I think, encrypted with the password of the holo port owner. I think. I'm not 100% sure of that because I know much more about Holochain than Holo. So if that's the case, if your device got stolen, but the bundle didn't know the password of the Holoport owner, they still couldn't read the data.
Again, I would suggest continue with the conductor and we can connect everything with Holoport because the big topic Holoport gonna connect.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can I just want to add one thing before? So when we talk about the Holoport, can we revisit the whole DPKI thing as well?
Lily, about the Holoport, it is not clear to all of us.
Okay.
Actually, because honestly, nobody can answer right now. Even again, we cannot answer Holoport in precisely. Is it okay? Let's continue. And at the end, we would open.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Because I would like to again continue, please. Because the bridges remain, the rest is remain. Continue, and we can maybe come back to see how it's working or how much we have knowledge about the Holoport. Holoport knowledge, Holochain, it's much more clear to us than Holoport. Kian, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm going to do two things now, which are first clean a little bit this up. So I'm going to cover bridging. So in the local conductor, which is where bridging happens. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit and see how different conductors interact with one another. So bridging is only the application code of one Holochain application asking the conductor to call another function of another Holochain application. So for example, the Clutter app can do bridge function call, and you have to specify which application you are calling, which zone you're calling, and which functions, and with parameters, like exactly the way that you call the application from the UI, you have to specify exactly the same parameters. And then the conductor is going to bring up that application and call some function for you, and then return the response. That's it. That's all that one bridge is. Yeah, and I don't really know what else to say about it without questions. So if you have any questions around that, please ask.
Can you say the same thing again, but slightly slower?
Yeah, sure. So a bridge call is only when a Holochain application asks the conductor to call another function in another application. So the Clutter would say, hey, conductor, can you do a bridged function call for the mutual credit application? And the function is get verify if transaction occurred with these parameters. And then the conductor says, oh yeah, sure, let me see. Yeah, you have the mutual credit application. Let me see, is there a function there with that name? Oh, there is. Okay, execute function. And then the mutual credit application starts. Like, this function won't know if it's called from a bridge function call or from the UI. That's actually the same. So the function inside the mutual credit application is going to execute as normal, as you programmed it, then return whatever it's returning, and then the conductor will say to Clutter, here, mutual credit ended, here is the result, continue, do your thing.
What does it need to make that call? You said that it needs the zone address and things like that.
Yeah, so actually let me bring the signature, which will make this easy. Okay, so it needs the instant handle is, this is the, sorry, a little bit of context. This is the HDK documentation, and call is what bridge do, basically. This is a bridge. So instance handle is which DNA are you calling? The zone name is what zone you're calling. Capability token is with which capability you're calling the DNA. We can get into capabilities another time, and it was discussed in the architecture course. I don't want to get into it right now. Which function and with which arguments, and it returns a result. That's it.
Yeah, perhaps would it be possible to sketch the instance on your picture, or is it a different level of abstraction which wouldn't be so easy to sketch? What would you say?
What? Sorry, I didn't miss what you want me to.
The instance.
Ah, right. Each one of these is an instance.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. I read that in Holochain 2020 it will be called cell, right? The instance is going to be. Yeah. The semantics will be a little bit different, but it's still the same thing.
Exactly the same thing. Yeah, and I think actually cell it's much appropriate and much cooler.
Yeah.
Is there any way to create a transaction?
Absolutely. If the mutual credit has a create transaction, like here, create transaction, and then the Clutter can say, hey, bridge function call to mutual credit, create transaction, and go.
No, not this transaction of mutual credit. The logic of transaction. It means the one DNA start running something, that one commit and then come back, and I can commit or reject. If it is reject, they would come back.
Yes, so that's a very good question. Right now, there is no transactional commits in Holochain. That's a pity, but it is what it is. In Holochain 2020, we are going to get transactional commits per Zoom call execution. And last I heard about it, well, I heard that I was with Art in New York documenting this. This was limited per Zoom call, so not across different DNAs. So once you finish the context of a Zoom call, that gets committed, and then you return to the previous DNA or whatever, and then that gets committed. So the context isn't shared between DNA executions, but that may have changed. I don't know.
Thank you. Other question, guys?
I was going to ask, then I heard Guillaume say he doesn't want to talk about it right now, which is, again, how does this relate to capabilities? But if you don't want to talk about it right now, we'll talk about it some other time.
Like just to give like the headline, capabilities are the way in which the conductor, capabilities are managed by the conductor, are the way by which the conductor checks if you have permissions to execute this function or not. And there is a whole bunch of things going inside capabilities, but basically that's it. So if you want to do a bridge call from one application to another, you have to have permissions. Otherwise, you shouldn't be able to call.
And perhaps a question.
Yeah.
I realized I have a confusion in when the let's say the conductor or the DHT is validating a piece of incoming data, or let's say my node is validating some incoming piece of data. Am I signing that I validated the piece, right, at some point, or am I putting some signature that this has been validated, or is it this not happening? And the only thing is, it should be, right?
Yeah. So, sorry.
I wasn't sure if it's happening. Then when is this? Where is the signature being stored in a way? Is it like, is it plastered on the header of the stored piece of data, or yeah?
No, and it's funny. We are getting into the architecture of Holochain core, and we can go there in another session much more deeply. But the headline is that the node does the validation and then creates a validation receipt. And that validation receipt is not stored on the source chain because the validator node is not actually doing anything new. It's just validating other entries, right? So if you know that Holochain, the conductor is managing two things of all these instances, which are source chain and DHT, this would be on the DHT side, not on the source chain side.
Okay, thanks. But it is somehow the receipt. Yeah, so the receipt is somehow it's signed and it's stored within the DHT part. But is there some like linkability or yeah, well, yeah, I can look into the afterwards, like what's the specific structure of the receipt and how is it linked to the data? Yeah, but thanks.
Yeah, this is going to be very much changed in Holochain 2020. So okay. If you all want, we can do a deep dive into Holochain 2020 sometime, because it's really fun.
Jakub, if it is okay, let's give the Guillaume again the opportunity that I continue. Is it okay? Okay, Guillaume, would you please continue again your structure about?
Sure. The last part I want to talk about is how multiple conductors interplay with one another. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to use this template as it is. So imagine this is the node I'm running. and this is on my device or whatever. So now what happens is there is a new kit on the block. So let's say that maybe this is Lily's node. And actually, Lily only has these two applications installed, right? So, like as always, each Holochain application is its own network. So here we would have something like these two conductors will connect with one another and will ask, what applications are you running that I am running also? So in this case, the Clutter application and the deep key applications are the ones that both of them are running. So they are going to form the DHT between them. Form the DHT, connect as peers into the DHT of these two applications. Okay, and start messaging, gossiping, whatever. Not in the case of the mutual credit application, because I have it installed and Lily doesn't. So we are not neighbors in that application. We are nothing in that application. Lily doesn't exist in that application. So in the other side, I can have another colleague. Oops. And maybe this is Tom. And Tom doesn't have the Clutter, but does have the deep key mutual credit applications. So the same thing will happen, but on the specific applications which we both are running. And this is a little confusing. Let's see. Like this, good. And like this. Okay, so now you can see a little bit the big picture of how different conductors with different installed applications interact with one another, and why things like validation cross DNA are quite difficult. Because imagine that I'm doing a bridge call between the Clutter and the mutual credit application in my validation code. So I say, the tweet is only valid if I paid for it, or something like that. And in the validation code, I'm going to do a bridge call from the Clutter to the mutual credit, which is horrible in this diagram, but whatever. Imagine there is a bridge call. And now this tweet, this validation code is inside the Clutter application. And now this tweet gets committed here and propagated through the DHT to this node. And now Lily says, okay, I'm going to run the validation code and let me bridge to my instance of the mutual credit, which I don't have installed. So this is going to break, and validation is non-deterministic because here the validation passed, but here Lily doesn't have the mutual credit application installed. So we can't do things like that. If we do things like that, we have to be 100% sure that both, if you have the Clutter application installed, you have the mutual credit application installed. I didn't necessarily want to get too deep on cross-DNA application validation, but just to give you a sense of the implications of all these big pictures zoom out that we have here. And now I'm going to pause. Any questions, comments around these issues?
Yes, I have a question about the line here. This one. So I was thinking that I don't know why you are drawing, because I was thinking when Tom installed the application and Guillaume installed the application, about committing the entry and propagating, and because you are both about mutual credit, you are on the same universe. Why did you draw this one? It means the conductor are not talking to each other. It is not the job of conductor. You are muted. Guillaume, unmute.
Yeah, sorry, but I have a
I
really
got
hard
it.
time.
I got it. I
Yeah.
got it. I clicked. Okay, got it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. We have to coordinate better. That's totally fine.
I
So,
think the feedback it is because today you are not using your headphone. When you had your headphone, we didn't have feedback. Go ahead.
yeah,
You have
I'm
it.
using these other ones, but
Okay. Okay.
okay.
Go. Go. Go.
Anyway, so you're totally right. It's the conductors that are talking with one another to figure out what applications they have and to maintain DHT integrity. But there is no simple way to draw 3 lines here that represent that.
Got
So
it. Got
it's
it.
not
Thank you.
the application code that are talking with one another, but the conductor on behalf of the applications.
Thank you. Got my answer.
Anything else?
Um, so it's possible to do, I've heard it talked about remote bridging. I'm just verifying that would be under the application's control, so I could send a message from an app over on one conductor. I could send a message to to that same application on your conductor, asking you to bridge to some app that only you have, and then you could you could bridge it over there, and then you could send a message back to me, and that's how that works. Is just ad hoc between the applications.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right how remote bridge goes. In this case, it could go like, okay, Lily wants to see the transaction on Guillem's node, and she doesn't have the application installed, so she sends a message inside the Clutter application to say, hey, Guillem, if you can bridge, please. And then this conductor does the bridge call, and then the return gets back to Lily at the end. Exactly right.
Guillem, the developer supposed to take care of this remote bridging, or it should be subconscious? Just imagine, again, sorry, I'm gonna click. Imagine that I didn't move. So imagine that Lily here, so there is, the collateral is gonna be validated, okay? So the application, the code is written that go and query. It means if the application or DNA of the mutual credit, it is not exist here, so it means it's automatically go to the conductor, try to find a first neighbor, query and come back. However, it is a wrong pattern, and we will discuss about the validation really soon. So it means it shouldn't be in the subconscious. It means the code is written that it is running automatically, or the topic of a remote validation is going to be open. There is something is not clear to me right now. It means we need to consider this scenario that you are going to validate something from another DHT, and it might not install here on Lily. We need to consider as a developer.
So this shouldn't be in the subconscious of Holochain, because really Holochain doesn't have a clear understanding of what node it should ask for. So imagine, in the subscription application that you did in the Barcelona hackathon, the remote bridge, this is what had to happen, right? So send, receive message, and then bridge. But it's not any node that has the application installed. It's only the seller of the subscription or something like this. So there is no easy way for Holochain to know which node you have to ask, because maybe it's the node with higher reputation online. Maybe it's the node that contains all the mutual credit applications because it's a server, and it has registered itself as a server, and that's who we should always ask. And this is an app level thing, not really, it cannot be implemented on a subconscious level.
Thank you. My question, I'm not gonna continue because it's gonna go out of the actually conductor. I'm gonna cut my question. Please, anybody question about conductor? If there
I
is,
have a
go,
question. This is
go, go.
Kamal. So you mentioned that you know, if Tom and Guillaume are talking and there's a tweet that needs mutual credit, and Lily doesn't have that, do you have a solution for that, or are you still working on a solution for that?
Like, my solution is don't make validation rules
Okay.
depend on external DNAs unless
Okay.
you know 100% that they're going to be there. And
Actually,
even there, sorry.
Go, sorry.
And even then, I think it's much better to don't depend on external DNAs and have all the information you need in that DNA in order to validate.
So just a follow up on that. Let's say someone is just wanted to do that, huh? The thing that you're just asking not to do, someone wants to do that. Is that person, the H app developer, would have to like then have some functions within it when someone is installing this H app, that this H app has to be present before it can work? Something like that. Would they have to consider those design considerations?
Yeah, that's what
I
you
heard
have to
that
think
there
about.
were HAP bundles.
And guys, I think we need to open this topic later. I have a bunch of discussion here that about the validation. If, let me give you the title, if we would have such sort of question, I think it is the signal that we are wrong in a design and architect. Just have it. If you would like to continue this topic, continue, but I would prefer to postpone because it is another topic. Is it okay to have a validation and calling another DNA? We need to go to the architecture and a philosophy of the Holochain. It means answer of this question, it is in another corner. My suggestion.
Yeah, I resonate with that. That's a whole big animal by itself. I would do that on another call.
Guillaume, please continue if there is anything else on conductor, please.
How about
Like
I'm just wondering where the data gets stored. Does that get does it get stored in a file on my machine? Like oh, this my local chain. Like, so if I kill my conductor and I start my conductor again, it's still got the chain going, and is that just in a flat file somewhere?
Yeah, so I can show you what's the case right now, and in Holochain 2020 we are going to see. So this is the Holochain conductor config toml that it's like it is describing what DNAs the conductor is running and what instances are up and these kinds of things. And then the storage folder contains these are basically databases. These are basically databases in which all the data is stored. And this by default is stored in a storage folder inside your Holochain conductor in the folder where you run the Holochain conductor. But this might change.
Okay, Guillaume, is there anything else about conductor?
Not really, apart that any one of you that is trying to do things like dynamically create DNAs that, for example, Leap does or something like that. This really is the resource to look at. This is the Conductor Admin Api, API, which exposes these functions: install DNA, start instance, add new agent or whatever you need to do to basically modify this conductor config file. So if you need to take a look at that, I'm going to pass you the link. And I think that's it for me today.
That's it. If you stop sharing. Great, great. So, guys, before continuing, first of all, you know me how much I love you. If somehow I'm cutting you guys, because you know, if we are going to at first to be in a track that when it is finished, it is all and all to have. Should I explain or there is no need? Internally, something is telling me, Hidayat, explain that nobody upset, nothing, okay? If somehow I'm cutting, it is just for the content. Please do not upset.
All good,
Yeah.
dude. Never felt it.
Oh, good. I'm happy. So that's fantastic. Guillaume, thank you. It was brilliant. And I learned a lot. So right now, I cut some question because it could go to different branch. You know what happened, Josh? You're gonna talk. What's up?
I just had a cultural meme that might be interesting called popping the stack, because what you're talking about is cutting people off so that we don't end up down rabbit holes. If we do end up down a rabbit hole, there's a game called Pop the Stack, which is let's go back to the last thing. We're too far down this rabbit hole. And people like Christopher Allen, etc. play it. I thought you might like to know.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So it is fantastic. I personally believe let's totally have this session about the conductor in deep. It means later on when we are gonna refer to the conductor, we can refer to that session, okay? During the Guillaume discussion, I caught some question. First of all, again, excuse me, it is for the having the right track and you know that. Right now, please reopen the topic again. The question that I caught. Lily, sorry, I caught one of your question. I just did it to return back to track. Right now, please, if there is again any deep question that goes to the hollow port something, I think we can right now cover. Please.
No apology necessary. Sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh yeah, still one question. So we're only asking questions about conductor, right? Yeah.
Conductor and conductor in deep. Anything about the conductor, okay? And conductor in deep. Because we are going to refer this session later on as a resource of conductor inside the community. If anybody has question about the conductor, go to session number 11. Go to session number 11. Please just accumulate any question about the conductor here, and even right now, holoport. Even right now, holoport.
Yeah, I was gonna come back to backup and archiving features like the automated. Maybe that's in the 2020 conductor. I don't know. But, yeah, it's a big part of it for me.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So the Holochain 2020 conductor, we can talk about it deeply in the Holochain 2020 deep dive that I see emerging in the chat. But basically offers a bunch of services to applications and UI, and one of them is source chain backup, so that you can sort everything and you don't need to do weird things.
Again, one small question. From 0 to 100%, how much percent conductor in 2020, HC Holochain 2020 is gonna be changed? If it is
like
hard, do not answer.
Yeah, that's basically all that's going to be changed. So
not the logic. It means maybe the functionality is gonna be changed, but even the concept is gonna be changed. It means everything you explained today.
No, the concept is exactly the same. It's just how the state model is working and how Holochain persists data and how different calls execute. The execution flow, the execution flow of the conductor is going to be totally different. But the applications on top of the HDK and of the conductor functions are going to remain virtually the same, because the conductor is, the glue is going to be basically the same API, the same contract and whatsoever.
Arya, go ahead. You wanted to ask us.
Yeah, so actually, we did not talk really about the conductor and the network. We did not talk about that. So can we just touch that a little bit? And especially, I want to understand in a situation where there is no internet, kind of a situation where you're working on Wi-Fi. Let's say you have a router and people are connected over Wi-Fi. Can they leverage that kind of a networking setting to do these kind of things? So just let me know.
Okay, I can talk about how the conductor relates to the network. I didn't understand the last part about how
it means if I think the question is that if we have a bunch of devices or mobile PC that inside the local network without any internet, I think the mesh network is gonna find each other, the peer-to-peer. Yeah, the topic is a mesh networking. Yeah, go ahead.
Interesting. So first, I think I have to pull the process by which conductors find one another. So if you think about it, you create a Holochain conductor, it's here, it's running, but it really doesn't know anything about the world. It doesn't know if the application that it's running are already running in somewhere and already have some DHT and already have some people or not. Like from their perspective, they're the first ones and they don't know anything. So they need to find that DHT, they need to find one another. They need to like, hey, man. The way they do that is by Bootstrap Notes. So Bootstrap Notes are really, you can think of them as servers that their only function is to redirect nodes to meet each other. So let's say that my node boots up and it has configured like 4 or 5 Bootstrap nodes, different Bootstrap nodes. Like you can think of them as something akin to our DNS server domain system or something like that. This is one of the trickiest parts in the whole Holochain story. So then very briefly, I boot up, I go asking the Bootstrap nodes, hey, what applications, what conductors are running these applications I'm running? The Bootstrap nodes redirect me to those conductors, and then we can start playing with one another. Okay, so with, sorry, Hadayat.
Go, nothing, go.
Okay, so with that, let's think about Wi-Fi or LAN-only networks or something like that. In that case, the scenario is totally different because with a very simple scan, you can find all the nodes that are running your application or whatever. So the short answer is I don't know exactly how this is going to play out, but my feeling is that it should not be difficult to create a LAN mode or discovery mode that instead of going to the Bootstrap servers or whatever, scans the local network for other peers. That shouldn't be hard. Right now, this is much easier. This whole Bootstrap story doesn't exist because you only point to Syn2H server, and that's that. Everyone points to the Syn2H server. Everyone that points to the same one is going to get connected. But in the future, with Live3H, that's a whole story.
It means the Bootstrap is supposed to be signaling between the peer. It means the peer-to-peer signaling each other that, hey, I'm here, hey, that I'm here. The things working inside the peer-to-peer streaming that we need another one. that both of us signaling each other that I am here, also I am here. We can identify, we can recognize each other, and then connect, and then go to the connection. It means the Bootstrap is supposed to be such sort of signaling server that we can just find each other.
Exactly. But just in the process of starting the application. Once the application is started, you already have 10 neighbors, and you know you can reach all the network.
And what about the online, offline, and peer? It means that when a peer go live, go down, live, down, again, this process is supposed to be happening again.
Not really, because when your node goes down, you still have you store the peers of your neighbors, like you save them in the disk. And then when you boot up, you try to find those nodes. Like you say, hey, I remember you were running this application. Let's try to connect again. And maybe the nodes are offline, and then you have to go to the Bootstrap.
Got it. Okay, I'm not gonna continue this topic because it's gonna go out of conductor. Let's return back to the conductor.
Well,
Jim?
Well, kind of still on conductor, but on this topic too. So suppose I change my IP address, which could happen for 10 different reasons that I could list, but that's outside the scope of this. But so all of a sudden I have the same agent key or set of agent keys being managed, and they're coming up on a different IP address.
That's a really we are like diving right into Holochain core.
I would like to again, Jim. So sorry. Let's keep. This is the question. Also, I myself caught it. Let's again a little bit shift this question to last 5 minutes. Any conductor question? Conductor.
When the conductors, when they find each other, the gossip goes around, they're broadcasting, and then do they broadcast what specific applications they're running, so that they can bridge, so you can do remote bridging with a peer which is running the same stack of bundle stack or cells.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the only information that matters at that point. If I have
Go.
If I have a conductor and you have a conductor, but we are not running the same applications, even if we go to the Bootstrap nodes, we are not going to connect because we are not running the same application. So when I go to the Bootstrap, I say, these are all the applications I'm running. Find me partners, find me colleagues.
Yeah, all the propagation phases, it means sending, finding neighbor, all of them are going to be included the conductor.
Yeah.
Can you find a conductor that's running an application that you don't have? So I want to find someone that's running mutual credit, because I don't have that here.
Good question.
Very good question, and the answer is no. And there's no more explanation about it. You can't. If you have an app level mechanism to do that, and you have an agent that can bridge between those, you could try to find. But if there is no agent that speaks both languages, you cannot go through, you cannot discover anything. So that's a real limitation, and you have to think about it when you're designing. Like if you create a DNA that nobody will be able to discover, that's a poor, lonely DNA.
Another question, if it is not part of conductor, ignore it. I don't know, honestly. If in a propagation phases, when a conductor is going to send to the neighbor, it is checking the neighbor is live, or there is also something like a mapping address, just it is propagating. If it is live, it is received. Otherwise, it is not receiving. Is it related to Conductor? If it is not, just
It is, but this is for the Holochain 2020 deep dive, I think.
okay. Ignore. Any other question?
Yeah.
The storage place that you showed with the files, that's going to be holding both the local chain and the local copy of the DHT?
Exactly. Actually, they both are stored on a single database because this is a content addressable storage. So it doesn't really matter whether you have it on your source chain or it came from a DHT, it's the same data. And then you have different databases to store different data, but this is for the deep dive of the Holochain core. Like we have to do that, it seems.
Victor.
Yeah, I did. Just thinking in fully private applications, if say you're just 3 people that want to use an application, you wouldn't need to use a Bootstrap node, right? You could just make sure to invite each other's apps to find that peer, or would you want to still have like one of us be the Bootstrap that everybody talks to first?
Good question. I don't know. There may be different strategies to achieve discoverability of peers. I don't really know at this moment. I know that Bootstrap is going to be the default one. But this sounds very, very logical as well. Like the only thing I need in order to try to discover a peer is IP.
And once
it's IP.
Once you have some peers, you ask for their peers, right? In order to find
Exactly.
more. Yeah.
Martin, go.
Yeah, actually, that was my exact question. If you have a group of people, you're trying to organize and say, do you need a Bootstrap node, or is there any way of, like what person bootstraps the Bootstrap node, maybe? So yeah, okay, that's a Holochain 2021, I guess. And also the second question, which I think is Conduct related, is are there any sort of known simple patterns that for embedding Holochain? Let's say, I want to compile in a conductor as part of a shrink-wrapped application. So you're not exposing, oh look, it's a conductor, it's a shrink-wrapped thing, but you deploy it as a networked application. Do you know about anything? Anybody actually know anything about that?
Just to understand the question, it's like getting to run a Holochain application without the conductor, something like that?
Without exposing that it is a conductor. So it's kind of a library maybe, or sort of statically linked within.
What is the benefit?
Like,
what is the reason? Why we need that? What is the reason for that solution? For that?
Well, it might be for an application that's simply packaged as a bespoke sort of vertical thing. I mean, for example, Electron is a browser, but you're turning it into whatever, aren't you? Yeah, You don't need to you don't need to kind of ship a browser as a browser next to the application that's going to use that browser. That sort of thing.
I understand, and yeah, I think I get your point. And basically, what you need to do is in your application execute a conductor or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Without the conductor.
Right. That must be what Holo does. They've got a conductor inside some larger thing, and they link it in to make Holo, to make a Holo node.
Right. Yeah, that's one application. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise! Inside the Holo ports, there are conductors running. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Game. If no question, Tom, go.
Yeah, I wanted to segue into into the WASM, like the question that Jacob asked about earlier about how to use directly communicate requests to the WASM assembly without conductor, and what scenario would you be able to do that? Is that like a future electron option? Maybe nobody knows.
Think that's, no, I think that's the same. Like wherever you want to run your WASM code, and wherever that code, yeah. So if you want to run your WASM code in your web app, you can. Like actually, the browser is running WebAssembly at the low layer. It compiles JavaScript to WebAssembly, right? That's why it's named WebAssembly. So there's really no reason to try to make things complicated, as in try to call the Holochain. So if you think about it, if you try to call the Holochain code, WASM code without the conductor, it will fail because the HDK calls won't know how to commit entries, right? And won't know how to sign things because the conductor is not there. It's just that shell of like code that doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, I think perhaps the use case would be not actually wanting validation, but it's kind of mixing up very different use cases, right? Because I might want to just plaster some fast graphic computing, which I want to just then quickly transfer to my browser. So I might want to do that in my WASM module, but then it's nothing to do with Holochain. It's just plastering the code to the module.
Still, I think it is not going to be big deal. We can add, it means we can easily shortcut the conductor. The UI is coming up. We're adding the WebAssembly to UI and call via JavaScript. That's it. It means, yeah, am I right? I see the simplicity here, or I didn't just, it means I'm wrong that I see the simple, or I didn't understand the question.
From my perspective, you're absolutely right.
And Guillaume, I have another question. It was in my mind that a few times we discussed also Jim always mentioning this topic that for the also lib that inside, it means here I have a laptop here, I have a cell phone here, I have a different devices. So basically, based on our understanding, if I'm going to install one application, so on each devices, because it is agent centric, I'm supposed to bring up a new version of application, new key, so public and private. So I would have a different subset of identity on each devices. On my phone, it is a public key, private key. On my PC, so the alternative is Holoport. So if we are not going to think about Holoport for any reason, do you think can we design the architect that I can say at the beginning of a router, if it is the network, one place we can bring up a one conductor, and anybody as a UI just pass through the application via one conductor. It means putting the different UI and devices, look at the conductor as a gateway. In that case, I can easily install one application on PC, on mobile, at home. So that there is no need to generate a new public key, private key. Am I clear about the question?
I think so. Like you can do that, but you have to be aware of you're only going to be one agent.
That's exactly.
Like for example, if you want your family to start using it, maybe it won't work. Oh, bye, Josh. It won't work because you're not going to be able to separate between agents. You're not going to be able to say this agent made that tweet, this agent
No, it is
made
one
that,
agent.
because you're going
It
to
is
be,
one agent. When we
yeah,
are going
one
to
agent.
install one conductor,
Yeah.
I'm telling, because do you remember always Josh also mentioning this one in the leap? Okay, I'm a teacher. I'm going to install on laptop and PC. So it means we are going to support multi-teacher edit or something like that, because Hedayat on a PC is a different, totally different Hedayat from a mobile. So that's why we are going to support multi-teacher leap application. It was the whole main topic. But if we install one conductor, we can say it is one agent. We are not going to, it is not the scenario multi-agent on one conductor. No, one different device, one conductor.
Yeah, like you can do that. I don't know if it's the best to do that in all scenarios. Like, this wouldn't be my first way to solve that problem. I think that app layer solutions to say these conductors actually are the same user should be brought forward and should be thought about. But yeah, in theory, that will
You know
work.
what is the topic, Guillaume, right now? We know about the agent century. We know about the, even there is a topic in the Asia Pacific time about the group agent that we a little bit talked about that. Right now, the topic that is a relation between devices, conductor, and agent. Who is the agent? Agent, it means one device. Agent means one conductor. Agent means one public key, private key. What does it mean, agent? Because I can be easily in my apartment, I'm alone, I'm living alone. It means I'm one agent. So in that case, agent does not supposed to connect to my devices. Hedayat, in your apartment, you have 4 devices. You are 4 agent. Oh, come on, I'm one agent. But I have 4 devices, and that's why I'm in the middle of, it can be a question, cannot be question. It is a philosophy question. What does it mean, agent?
You go into your office too. So you
I
always
can go to
into
my office. It means it can also be portable. Yeah, Jim. Yeah. What does it mean, agent? Agent is public key, private key. So it means. Go ahead. Go, Lily. Go.
Does that make sense? I mean, okay, yeah, that's really. So are we talking about one agent across device or one network?
Lily, you cut. Would you please cut your video because your voice is. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's really, really good point, right? Is the agent, is it me across all the network, all the apps I work on, or is it me per app, per network across my devices? And how does that now link to the profiles, my persona profiles as well, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I can see. I can see the pros and cons. You know, if I'm locked into one, so that means I have one gateway now. What happens if that gateway, something's wrong with that? Then everything tied to it is broken. You know, it's sort of this, like, you know, modular in a different way, right? And at what granularity, at what level do we want that separation, that partitioning to be managed? And, you know, what's the price that comes with making it more convenient or more decoupled? So maybe just more questions.
Lily, it is question or explanation? I missed a little bit because you explained some idea and did you, if
more
you
questions.
got the okay, Guillaume, if
more
you
questions.
got the question, go for it, because I was thinking you are explaining. Go.
Sorry. No, I'm
Guillaume,
done.
Go. Yeah, go.
So, okay, what we have right now is that Holochain is saying each one of your conductors will be able to generate multiple public-private key pairs. Each one of those is we're going to call an agent, and you can instantiate an application with any of those agents in a way. Here we could talk about whether the agent is only the public-private key or is all the possible public-private key that you can generate from your master sheet. And I think probably the second one is most human readable or human talkable, but it's not really what the Conductor Admin API does, for example. So the Conductor Admin API does things like add agent. So you can add a new agent in the conductor, and that's getting the master sheet and generating and so on. So I'm going to go by the book and what the conductor says. So really you are a different agent per conductor, at least, for sure. Two conductors cannot be the same agent. And then most probably you are different agent per different application that you have not specifically told the conductor to use this agent.
Okay. I think.
And then it's up to the application level to figure out what to do with that. Holochain is agnostic to that level. So, and Holochain I think Holochain would be agnostic at this private key, public key level as well, if it was not the foundation of everything else. So you need to have public-private key to do validation, to do committing, to do headers, to do everything. But if not, I think it would be agnostic as well. Different patterns can emerge to solve that problem, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think also it goes a little bit far from conductor. I would like to cut also this question for later. Okay, 2 hours we are here, guys. Like always, we are just, when we are here, we miss the time. Yeah, Albert Einstein, time is relative. So, with the lovely people, you don't understand how fast time is going. So, at the end, if there is no topic, we can close this week.
Did either of you, Guillaume or Hidayat, did you hear anything about running Holoscape on Linux, except as root user to be able to load the bundle?
I'm sorry, no, I've been off the grid and I haven't been able to do that.
Sorry also from me, Jim. So it was a relaxing week to me also. So,
and sorry, just the last thing is that the question I had before about sort of placing the conductor within a kind of wrapping it actually really does relate to the bundling aspect. In fact, it's just like, where do we see this thing going? Maybe because sometimes you do want, I think, to perhaps create an application that is based on Holochain, but it's not actually exposed in a sort of, it's like Holochain inside idea rather than it's something to install within the context of Holochain. That's what I'm talking about. So it's kind of imagine with a life without Holoscape, really. That's what I was trying to say. All right. But anyway, yeah. So thank you everybody for today.
Thank you, Guillaume. If you would like, from myself, I love you like always. Thank you, guys. And Guillaume, please just close the session.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. It was.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you for joining. I'm actually tired to do a very long goodbye, so I'm going to say goodbye and see you next week. Thank you for coming.
I'm glad you had a relaxing week. But you.
Yes.
You need to
Thanks.
reiterate. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.